What's going on YouTube? A while back, Heck and Steve did a video entitled, "It's okay to collect cheap games." So what do we mean by that? Disclaimer. I know I talk a lot about collection addiction on here, so if you believe that you suffer from something like that with retro games, video games, and collectibles in general, be sure to take this video with kind of a grain of salt. Now, obviously, I'm not saying go out there and buy a bunch of cheap games just to amass your collection, because even Heckin' Steve has recently been downsizing his collection pretty rapidly. I think he's got 2 parts and he's been really kind of hitting at it. So, and that's something we've done here in the past. But what I wanted to go today talk about is it's okay to collect cheap games as long as you're going to play them. Emulation is an option as well. Some of you will not like to hear that. I personally had gotten rid of a ton of filler games, guys. Like, absolutely, I think at one point I took about 50 to 75 games in one time to trade into my local game store, which in the end got me a good amount of credit. Plus, it actually stocked them up pretty well. They were grateful for that. But why do I always say emulation is an option? So at one point I had a ton of NES games. I was holding on to them only because I wanted to keep my collection somewhat big. Now, when I actually got my Retro Pi set up, I got my, mini classic NES and stuff like that, and I got some of those games on there as well, it almost didn't seem worthwhile to actually have those video games anymore. And so if that's something that you are struggling with, is, I want to hold on to these games because I want to have a bigger collection, and then you still want to play them though, I mean, emulation is obviously an option, but there's a lot of amazing video games out there that are very super cheap to have. And I've talked about this in the past, that obviously I mentioned it a few minutes ago. If you're going to actually play them, then that option is open for you. Obviously, you want to play them. You're going to have to play them though. And then, of course, if you play them and you don't like them, you can always just resell them or get rid of them in the past. And that's kind of the nice thing about emulation in general, is you could test out a lot of games prior to playing them to make sure that you're actually going to like them. I watched a bunch of hidden gem videos and some other stuff like that. Seeing on some games on there, I'm like, oh, those look like cool games. I'm going to get them. So I wasted money purchasing them. I got them, and I played them for about 5-10 minutes, and I'm like, this game is crap. I don't know what the heck hidden gem they were talking about, but I absolutely hate this game. Alright, so keep going on. You shouldn't buy games just to fill a shelf, though. There's many great cheap games that you can get that are worth playing and enjoying instead of just looking at. If you look at a lot of PS2 games, Xbox 360, PS3, even PS4 and stuff nowadays, you will find that a lot of the great franchises that are built upon those consoles themselves are pretty cheap. Nintendo seems to be about the only one with first-party games that are really jacked up in price. I mean, there's even games like Gears of War, Devil May Cry, Metal Gear Solid, Uncharted, and a lot of those games are dirt cheap. Like, they're very cheap to get, and they're fun games too. Then on top of that, I think a lot of people get lost in that now, especially with YouTube the way it is, that we only look to see the value in the video game itself instead of how good a game it actually is. I was recently on the Rushmore show, and we talked about our favorite heroes. And most of the games that were brought up were heroes from cheap video games. I mean, even a lot of the Final Fantasies really aren't that expensive nowadays, and they are very established in the community. I have a copy of Final Fantasy 3/6 right here. I think I paid $35-40 for a loose copy of it. I mean, this was probably like $10-15 for the case. But it's not that expensive. Same here with Final Fantasy on the NES. I think the game's around $20-25 or something like that, and it's hours and hours of fun, especially if you're into RPGs. Now, you might need a walkthrough, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes with those old NES games and stuff like that, it's kind of hard to find out where you're going. So I'm not gonna lie, and I will say that some of those games I do cheat on and kind of give a walkthrough just to see the general direction where to go. But you shouldn't be afraid to buy cheap games. Like I said, YouTubers influence us daily. For the most part, a lot of us anyways. We'll watch their video, we'll think that we need to only buy, Kuni whatever, or Earthbound, or Rumble of Roses if we want to have a good collection. And you guys got to remember that it comes down to what games do you enjoy yourself. Your collection should represent you yourself, what games you love, what genres you're into, and video games you're going to actually play. You shouldn't be out here trying to impress people on YouTube itself. And that was one big thing I learned. But the games themselves should be something that you're going to love. Like I said, I'm a huge Devil May Cry fan. I love Metal Gear Solid. And a lot of the, like Gears of War, Halo and stuff. Those games are not that expensive. And most of the time nowadays, you can actually buy, compilation games. I think I recently picked up for $35, $40 or something like that, was the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster on PS4 from Target. I recently picked up, it was a Tomb Raider collection, Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 for the PS5. I think I picked it up for like $15 at a discount store. And just other stuff like that. They really are pretty good about making sure that they, especially if it's older games, that you can get them on modern consoles and you can also get them kind of put together, which is amazing to have. So it's just something that you don't have to leave. And like I said, I feel like a lot of us out there, like, my collection's only good if I have super expensive and rare games in it, and it really isn't. You should be able to go into somebody's game room or something like that, look at their collection and kind of learn a little bit about them. Now obviously you're going to be able to pick out their personality extremely, but a lot of times, say you show up to somebody's house and they got a bunch of racing games, a bunch of sports games and stuff like that, you know that that's really kind of what they're into. They're more fast-paced and stuff like that. Otherwise, if you dwible into, like, I don't even know if that's a real word, dwibled, but if you'd come down to my game, you'd notice a lot of the stuff around here is obviously like Zelda, like I said, Metal Gear Solid, and Final Fantasy, because I'm a huge RPG/adventure fan. I'm very big into fantasy, as you can kind of tell. But that's just that's what's cool about collections, is you should be able to, they should reflect you yourself, not what you want people to think. Now, like I said, I had a massive collection at one point. Well, I wouldn't say massive by any standards. I've seen some of your guys' collections on YouTube, and let's face it, mine was nothing compared to that. But that's what she said. Woo, woo, woo. Anyways, at one point, I did have a bunch of cheap filler games that I regret getting. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't regret buying games that you're going to enjoy if you find them for a good price. It is okay to collect cheap games as long as you are going to play them. I'm going to say that for like the third or fourth time. As long as you're going to play them and enjoy them, it's okay to collect cheap games. With that being said, guys, I want to end this video by asking what you guys think about this. Is this something that you guys have dwibled into before? God, I just keep making up these words today. Dwibled? Is this something that you guys have gotten into before, where you bought a bunch of cheap games and you instantly regretted it because either you watched a YouTube video and you're like, no man, they got way better games than me and all I got is these cheap plastic crap, or are you basing your collection around you? I know a lot of people that follow this channel have really watched what their collections have become and kind of steered away from YouTubers influencing them on what they think they need to have. And now, obviously, when YouTubers do that, it's not out of, what do I want to say? They're not doing it on purpose. They're not purposely out here trying to make you guys, well, I shouldn't say that in general. For the most part, I don't think they're purposely out here trying to influence you guys to buy certain games to skyrocket prices. I do know that there is some people out there that have a stockpile of certain games, and they really push them to try to raise the price up so someday they can just sell all their games for expensive prices. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this. I think it's a great topic. If you guys haven't checked out Heck and Steve, make sure you guys go check him out. Besides his roasting of resellers and stuff like that, he actually has some great videos, especially now. He's really kind of got away from a little bit from just roasting resellers all the time and talking more about stuff that like this that matters. Or I shouldn't say that the other stuff didn't matter, but you know what I mean, that it has actual like kind of more substance to it, more general thought and dialogue, instead of, you know, like, look at this guy, you know what I mean. I love you, Heck and Steve. Anyways, so great channel, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. As always, stay retro, my friends, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video, guys. God bless. Bye.